I'm Janeane. This is KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and this is Get the Funk Out. Standing by to join me is Donne Davis. She's founder of the GaGa Sisterhood, a national social network for enthusiastic grandmas. She's also an author, and she's joining us right now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Janeane. I love being here with you.
I need to mention the name of your book, though. When Being a Grandma Isn't So Grand, 4 Keys to Love, L.O.V.E, Your Grandchild's Parents, a practical guide for handling the most common grandparenting challenges.
That's it.
I love it. How did you start the sisterhood, the GaGa Sisterhood? I love that name.
Well, it was way before Lady Gaga. I'm one of these days I'm going to write to her and tell her.
You should.
Maybe you can connect me because you've got such good connections.
I don't know.
Well, this is so amazing because 18 years ago, I was standing at the foot of my daughter's bed in the hospital, and she gave birth to my first grandchild, Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
And when that little baby entered the world, I was standing right next to the midwife, and she lifted that little head up. I swear, Juliet and I locked eyes.
Wow.
And I literally jumped in the air, and then I went running down the hall and I said, Sonny, we're grandparents. And I didn't come back down to earth for days.
Oh, I bet.
And it was so funny because I thought I was the first grandma to feel this way, which was really funny because every time I started talking to another grandma, she was just as gaga as I was.
I love it.
But then the next thing that happened was that I watched my daughter parent, and it was so different from how I raised her.
Mm-hmm.
She was wrapping Juliet in this Moby wrap and carrying her around the house 24/7 and sleeping with her, breastfeeding on demand. And I'm just in awe and a little bit like, this is all new.
Were you quiet about it, or were you vocal saying, what are you doing here?
I was mostly quiet.
Okay.
I kind of had a sense that I better not say what was going on in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't want to make any judgments, but I was very curious, and curiosity always is a good way to lead.
It is.
So I just rounded up. It was several months later, actually, that I rounded up all the grandmas I knew and said, come over to my house. Let's start a conversation about what it means to be a modern grandma, because I need to talk to you. What is your experience like?
I love this. It's like group therapy.
It is.
You know?
We don't call ourselves a support group, but we're very supportive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like you also laid the foundation for something very meaningful, very purposeful, very meaningful, which is so important. And you don't, sometimes in life, you start something, like I started this show not really knowing where this would go, but doing it for the purpose of, at the time, healing because I lost a friend, but then giving other people a platform. And you did the same thing. You gave people a platform, and then this grew into something even bigger.
It did. It absolutely did. And I always had a mission. I've always loved creating communities and sharing information that helps people have a better life. So my mission is to inspire grandmas to keep growing and learning.
That's so important. Never stop learning.
Mm-hmm. Because our grandchildren, oh my gosh, they're learning at lightning speed.
Mm-hmm.
So what's amazing about this, witnessing this birth, is that next month I am taking this 18-year-old granddaughter of mine down to UC Santa Barbara for a road trip to see the campus. And it went like that.
Absolutely. In a blink, right?
It did. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And, you know, the bond between grandchildren and their grandparents is tremendous.
Yes. It's like no other, because you don't, in most cases, unless you are raising your grandchildren, you're not responsible for them in the true sense of raising them. But I feel like I'm part of the team. I've always told Deborah, I want to be part of the team. I'm not the captain. You're the captain. Tell me the rules. I'll follow them.
Well, that's great communication, because not everybody can say all that.
Well, that's what I say in my book, that you have to show mutual respect. you have to build that trust so
Mhm.
that you get to have the grandchildren all by themselves.
True.
'Cause that's
Very
the
true. Sure, because you don't want to overstep the
that.
foundation of what's, the rules and regulations kind of thing. You want to, to abide by the foundation, but you also want to have your own relationship.
Oh yeah. And that little acronym in my book, the LOVE,
Hmm.
L stands for learn the parent's language and their parenting methods. O is own your shared purpose. V is value the parent's hard work. And E, most important, empathize, empathize, empathize. Don't give unsolicited advice. Just say, oh, that must be really hard. And
When did
mean
you
it.
come up with this? I love this.
I wrote the book in 2012.
Okay. Was there something that led you to write it? Some moment, or you just was kind of brewing?
It was brewing, and I wanted to have something like a calling card.
Hmm.
So that's what I did.
It's
Wrote that.
amazing. I told you I got this fellowship with Columbia University. It's been amazing. We've been learning a lot about the effects of isolation, loneliness, especially during the pandemic on older adults. What's been your experience? What have you seen? I mean, maybe you haven't felt so isolated and alone because you have family nearby, but what is your experience with the people you know?
Oh, I definitely experienced isolation. And every single one of my GaGa members couldn't see their grandchildren. Well, I shouldn't say every single one, but almost all of them could not see their grandchildren or hug their grandchildren. I haven't hugged my almost 7-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, since February 2020.
Yeah.
And so we've all felt this tremendous loss
Yes.
and sadness, as especially those who've had grandchildren born and couldn't see them yet,
Hmm.
and then those who had a long-standing relationship, but either the parents or the grandparents didn't feel comfortable. So it's been very hard. But then all of a sudden, when vaccinations happened,
Hmm.
the hit top news story was grandchildren and grandparents reunited, and they showed reunions all over the
The
country.
hug fest begins.
Yes, yeah.
I know it is so hard not having the human touch, and then you have children that say we want to keep our parents safe. You have to stay away from the grandkids. So has technology helped you throughout all this?
Oh, definitely. In two ways. One, I've consistently FaceTimed or Zoomed with Sophia down in Southern California
Good.
every weekend. And she likes to stay on the phone for an hour and a half.
Whoa.
And it goes by really fast.
That's adorable.
She gives me art lessons. We get up and dance. We play scramble words in the chat,
Hmm.
and she reads me books and we sing. It's
Oh, I
really
love
fun.
it.
And then the other thing that was really like a silver lining is that I switched from my in-person meetings to Zoom. And so now I have grandmas all over the country coming to my meetings on Zoom every month.
I love that. Do you feel like you have more engagement now than you had before?
Definitely. And then I
Definitely.
also have speakers that I can have from all over the country. So I had a speaker in Indiana. Next month, I'll have one who's down in Southern California, and then I'll have another one who's out in New York. So I can have speakers. And I even had a grandma on from Australia, and it was the next day for her.
I love it. How do you find these women?
Well, they find me
Okay.
on my website, GaGaSisterhood.com. I have a meetup. I think, a lot of people have found me on Meetup. I have a huge number of grandmas on Meetup who, I guess they do a search on Meetup to find a
Fine.
group for grandma. And I think I'm the only one.
You might be. You just might be. What a great thing. So you have about how many people? Is it once a month you get a whole group together?
Yes, we've had close to 50. We had our 100th meeting in January. And
Amazing.
we had 50 people on the call.
Mm. So we were talking about ageism.
Yes.
How do you think we can deconstruct ageism in our society? Because getting old is not something that is looked upon positively. You know, we have anti-aging cream, and very few people I know are pro-aging that say, you see these wrinkles, it means I lived, you know, or I laughed a lot. How do you think we can start to kind of deconstruct that?
Well, tell me what you mean by deconstruct.
Sure. So to see aging as a positive thing, to
Mm,
not see it as a negative that needs fixing. And I'll give you a good example. So in the fellowship, we were talking about hearing aids and how hearing aids, they're so expensive. There's also a stigma where people don't want to wear hearing aids, but then you see people walking around listening to music with things in their ears, right? And that looks kind of cool. So why is it that hearing aids are looked down upon? Well, because it signifies aging and losing your hearing. But what does it mean that we have to turn marketing around to make hearing aids look really cool? And we have to they're talking about getting like Bose or Nike or whomever to design really cool hip hearing aids so that will get buy-in, right? It seems to be the thing. So I guess I'm asking, like, where do you see, like, how can we maybe go into schools or educate people on to see the positive of aging? Because as you get older, you have so much to offer a younger generation, right?
definitely. It's a huge problem. It's probably one of the biggest prejudices that we have
Mm-hmm.
because it starts so young. When women especially turn 40, they think, oh my God, I'm getting old. I love turning 40. I think we need to have more, as you said, intergenerational conversations where we see people loving life at an older age
Yes.
and showing. Now, I've been really self-conscious about saying my age, and I was talking to a woman who has a website called Celebrate the Gray. She represents gray-haired models. And so I told
I'm writing
her,
this down.
yeah, I said, I'm really
Celebrating the day.
self-conscious about saying my age, especially now that I just turned 75. And she said, if you don't say your age, people won't know what a 75-year-old looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm outing myself on your show. Ah!
And look, you're still here. You're still intact. Nothing happened. Let me share something with you. I had this woman on years ago. Her name was Cindy Joseph. Stunning, beautiful woman inside and out. And she told the story how she's walking down the streets of New York and she had let her gray hair grow out. She had a little patch of dark hair and somebody stopped her and they said, "Hi, you're absolutely stunning. I'm with the Ford Modeling Agency." And she's like, "Very funny. What friend put you up to this? That's hysterical." They said, "No, I'm really from the Ford Modeling Agency." Handed her a card, and they really were from the modeling agency, and they signed her. And she was completely gray. You should look her up.
I will.
And I had her on my show. She just was a pro-aging woman. Did not look at gray hair, wrinkles, anything. She just lived her life. Yeah.
Well, since we're on the subject of hair, I have to say, this is my natural hair color.
Really?
Yes. I have a little bit of gray
It's
around the
beautiful.
sides, but I can't model for Stephanie for her Celebrate the Gray because I don't have gray hair.
That's amazing.
And
Do
my
you,
mom is 98. She
yeah.
didn't have a lot of gray hair either, but she does color her hair.
Do you think sometimes that could be with how you live your life? I always wonder, like, if people manage their stress, do you think that affects your gray or is it something else?
Possibly.
I think so.
I do take really good care of myself. I I also 5 years ago started meditating daily.
Oh, that's good.
And I've also been doing yoga for 33 years. So I was telling somebody at the ageism consciousness raising group that I'm in that the secret of youth, or the fountain of youth, is being a grandma and doing yoga. Those are my two things that keep me really
I
young.
love that. What advice would you give to somebody that's feeling down, that would no way admit their age? They're feeling old, lonely.
Mm. Tell them to call me. I'll
Okay.
cheer them up.
That's a good
I,
idea.
you know, when Sonny, my husband, was close to the end of his life, and I was really sad because I had never lived alone in my whole life. We were married for 50 years.
Mm,
I met him when I was 21,
wow.
and I never lived alone. And I was so scared of living alone. And I told him, I was crying when I told him, and he said, Donnie, you love life too much. You're going to be fine.
Oh,
And he used to
wow.
always say to me, when you're not doing the thing you love the thing you're doing.
Mm,
So I do have uh, an optimistic outlook on life, and I'm excited. I always think this has actually been the most creative time in my life. This past 18 years of creating the GaGa Sisterhood and meeting grandmas from all over the world. I love meeting new people. Maybe if people are sad and they have any way to meet new people
yes.
or talk to somebody,
Great idea.
maybe that would help.
Sure. Well, that's why I switched my show to on camera last March, because I didn't want to just do audio in the pandemic. I wanted a chance to not feel so isolated, and to push myself to grow. And it's been for the best. Absolutely.
Well, it's so nice to see your beautiful face and smile.
So we have to tell the listeners how we really know each other.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So my husband is related to you. Now, would we be cousins or?
So, all right. So your father-in-law
Yes.
and my husband were first cousins.
Okay.
Eli,
Yes.
Robert's father,
Yes.
or yes, father,
Yes. Yes.
and my husband Sonny were first
Mhm.
cousins.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how many removed. I don't know all that, but we're, that doesn't stand in the way of me loving you and feeling like you're my cousin.
Oh, well, I feel the same. I've always felt this connection to you. And when you used to talk about this, I thought, I wonder if she'd come on my show. So I love this.
I'm so glad.
Where can people get your book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay. Want
It's
to
a
get
quick read, very quick read, but it's got nuggets in there. The my neighbor across the street just became a grandma, and it's so fun to talk to her because I'm long since the GaGa brand new grandma stage, but I get a vicarious thrill talking to her. Plus, I get to coach her. And I told her, when you go visit your new granddaughter for the first time, put on your anthropologist hat
Ah,
and imagine that you're studying this fascinating tribe with a really non-judgmental
lens.
lens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And see what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and ask questions with, you know, non-judgmental, and
Yes.
find out what is important to them. What are they reading? What can you read to help them to help you understand what they're learning? And if you go in with that kind of attitude, it's really fun.
Yes. I want to have you on back on again, because I want to have you share, and maybe we can get some people from your group on. Really, we have to flip that conversation. Imagine the grandkids interviewing the grandmothers or the grandfathers. Tell me about you. What was your first job? What did you like to do? What were you like as a kid, et cetera, et cetera? Obviously, times were very different. They didn't have all this crazy technology,
Yeah.
which in some cases is a detriment, I think. But to flip the conversation, I think adds to that notion of deconstructing ageism, have them to see the grandparents in a different light.
I
Get to
love
know
that.
them.
Yes, I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed this.
Oh, me too. It went so fast.
So give me your website one more time.
GaGa Sisterhood.com. All one word. GaGa Sisterhood is all one word.com.
And your meetup information is on there as well?
Yes. I have
Fantastic.
a lot of blog posts. I do a weekly blog post. I do a monthly newsletter. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My granddaughter set up an Instagram account for me.
I love
She's
it.
a tech guru.
What is your Instagram handle?
GaGa Sisterhood.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I think everything you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you, Janeane.